Good Wednesday morning, kids. Mr. Bullens here. Last Wednesday, when we were doing our social studies unit, you had an assignment that looked very similar to this. It looks like there's still a whole bunch of people that need to finish that. Remember, that is a grade, and I'm not going to chase you down to finish that. You were watching the video that I created. You're taking notes using Nearpod. There's the codes for you. You only went through slides 1 through 9, and all you were supposed to do was write a paragraph and here in your Google Docs, comparing and contrasting the similarities and differences between your life and the life of a Native American. And you were to be sure to hit turn in when you're done with that. So I know that there's a lot of people that are missing it. I'm not chasing you down, and I'm going to guarantee you there's some people in here that just hit turn in and turned in something blank. Again, I'm not chasing you down, and those will be graded today. Today, when we pick up, we have a few things that we're going to work on today. Obviously, you're going to watch the video on Nearpod, and we're going to go through some things that I'm going to show you that you'll have to do today. One of the first things is you're going to watch this video, and there are 4 questions in this 7-minute video. It will pause at specific times of the video and ask you a question. If for some instance it watched the whole video and it doesn't ask you any questions, there's a glitch in it, that'll be fine. We'll work that out later on. But it should stop you and make you answer questions, and it will not let you just scroll through the video. It's going to pause you at each point and make you answer very specific questions about the video that may be tough to answer if you haven't watched the video. You can take this poll here really quickly. I think it's a very quick poll, and it is an opinion poll, so there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to see what people have to say about that. And we're going to pick up here today with the men and women in a Native American community. Obviously, men and women had different jobs, and the jobs are probably fairly similar to what you think. The chiefs and leaders were generally men, but that didn't mean that women were powerless. Women's opinion was very, very well respected in the Native American community, and the women were usually the leaders in the home. And that happens, I think that's somewhat similar today. I think we finally gotten to a point where we have this understanding where just because someone may not be in power somewhere, everybody's opinion is more respected. The thing that might make us different is women are chiefs and leaders for us in these days and times. We do have women who run companies. I think of like Ann Kuzma, who works with Flipgrid, and so she's very, very high up in the company. She's one of the leaders. She's one of the decision makers. Casey Bell runs her own company. A lot of the things that we do in class is because of Casey Bell. As a matter of fact, she's actually sending us some stickers, so I'll keep those as like very special prizes for people, and maybe we can remember that from our social studies unit as well. Men were responsible for hunting. They were responsible for war and interacting with outsiders, which up until a long time there really weren't a lot of outsiders other than maybe other tribes coming in. The women, on the other hand, they managed the community. Now, this is a different community. We're not talking about all the living things in an ecosystem. We're talking about the community, the group of people that they all lived and interacted with. So that's a little closer to that definition a lot of people put on their science. Like last week, the women managed the community, so they had more power within the community, and they made the decisions there while the men were out hunting, and if there happened to be a war or if they were interacting with outsiders. Women were in charge of the home, and they were in charge of the fields, and they worked extremely, extremely hard. And I don't think if there's any of you out there that have any stay-at-home moms, you can ask them probably the toughest job that you can have. I have a really good friend who started being a stay-at-home dad, and his first comment after about maybe 2 or 3 weeks was, I think I owe my mom a huge apology because all those years I thought being a stay-at-home mom was fairly easy, and he's like, I just didn't realize the amount of responsibility that I was taking on, getting kids back and forth to school, cooking, keeping the house clean, and all of those things, and you really think that you have all this time to do it in, but you really don't, because a lot of those things take up a majority of your day, and then you come home and it's time to do homework, and you're cooking dinner, and you realize, wow, I have had like zero time for myself, and that's a Monday through Sunday job. It doesn't stop. There's no days off. They cooked and prepared meals. Now, they probably did this for more than just their families. They were probably cooking and preparing meals for the entire community. They skinned and cleaned the animals. They would go out and gather fruit and nuts around the village. They built fires, and they did that a lot of the time so they could smoke the meat that they had killed so it could be stored for a longer period of time. Women were responsible for harvesting the crops. And that's not an easy job. That's a very, very tough job to do, because if you look in the background here, you're going to see while doing all of this, they were also taking care of the kids. So you're taking care of kids, you're taking care of a baby, even like a crazy 2-year-old or something, and you have to go out and gather fruit and nuts. You're smoking meat and building fires. You're gathering firewood because, well, you can't have a fire without firewood. When a tribe moved, and they often were like hunters and gatherers, as we saw in one of the videos, it was the woman's job to pack up the home for moving and to set it back up at the new location. I love this next sentence. They often owned the home and everything in it. Women were very respected in their tribes for their hard work and for providing food from all the farming that they did. So I think it's interesting to see that throughout all the stuff that they did, they weren't overlooked. They were very well respected, very revered for all of the things that they did. And probably the most important job that they were doing throughout all of that, I mean, you can't live without eating or anything, but is raising the kids. Those are the people who are going to take over later. And I think that's a very, very important thing to think about. The men of the tribe, they were in charge of the tribe's activities away from the home. So the women were at the camp taking care of everything within the tribe, and the men's job was to take care of things outside of that. Their main job, obviously, for such a huge amount of people was hunting and fishing, because you have to have food. But it's not just food that they needed, because they used the animal skins for clothes. They used the animal skins and hides to cover their homes. They used them as blankets. So those things are all very important for the men to be out there doing all of their hunting. Men were also responsible for taking care of any of the wars and that might be going on, or just in general protecting the village from outsiders. The men would build weapons. I would say mostly the weapons were built for hunting. That was the majority of their time spent, was hunting and fishing. So the weapons that they built, the tools that they built, were for hunting and fishing, but they did create weapons for war as well in order to protect the village. They would build boats. Those boats were for fishing. Those boats were for traveling when they may decide to move, because you have to think about it. There's no running water. They would have to live near a water source, so they may get on their canoe, head down the river to a place that has more animals and more resources, and leave their boats nearby. But they had to stay nearby because they all needed fresh water to drink as well. The men were the political and the religious leaders. They may build permanent homes. We know that the women owned the homes that they would move around in, but if they decided some place was good enough to be permanent, the men would build the homes there. And they were responsible for planting the crops. So they would go out and till the field, plant everything, and then the women were responsible for harvesting the crops when it was finally coming time for everything to be finished and grown. Although men and women had different roles, they had equal rights. And we'll get into that for America later on. It took a pretty good while for women in America to have equal rights in America. And I think it's amazing that they had that respect and that equality even then. In many of the tribes, the chief was a man, but he was elected to that position from the women in the community. I think that's a very important fact to remember as well. It's a pretty amazing thing to think about, that it wasn't like all of the guys getting together and saying, this is our leader. It was the women in the community. They were so well respected that they were able to choose the person that they thought was best to lead them. I'm going to stop here. Next time we teach, obviously, it's going to be mostly about kids and what a kid's life was like from birth to when they were considered adults. And our assignment will revolve around that. So today you have a few things to do. Obviously, you've got to go back into your Nearpod, put your code in. You have to watch that video, answer the questions. That's very important. You have to go into Flipgrid. You have to create a quick video. Basically, I just want you to tell me what you think about the differences between men and women. Is it similar today? Is it very different? Are there any things that you saw in the Native American community that you would wish we had more of in our community? Are there things in our community that you wish you could have seen in a Native American community? There really are no right or wrong answers. This is an opinion, so it's not a very hard assignment, so it should most definitely be finished and turned in today. And that is it. Once you finish that, you can move on. And I think even in ELA today, you have more stuff about Native Americans, so it's like a full-on social studies day. All right, kids, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Don't forget, smash that like button and subscribe.